So I guess didn't actually watch a whole lot of anime this past week. A whole lot of that is, well, there's really two reasons there. First of all, um, well, maybe three reasons, but the primary reason that slowed me down has it has to do with moving out stuff. Where basically I've been focused a lot on organizing all that stuff and making sure I get everything set up now so that there's no real problems later on, so to speak. But the other reasons are kind of simpler. Another is that I keep pushing my bedtime to like 3 in the morning, waking up at 9. And I'm used to getting 8 hours of sleep. I'm not the kind of person who drinks coffee. So, and the AC went out on uh, Saturday evening and it was down all day Sunday, which pretty much meant that I was in a state of constant exhaust. No, it's all been catching up to me really, really, really harsh, especially the last couple of days, which has basically made me just not feel like doing anything. So I've been doing a lot more web browsing, couch potato kind of stuff, as opposed to watching TV, couch potato kind of stuff. And I guess the other problem is that all the stuff on my to watch radar right now are all subtitled only. And not only do I just not have the motivation to watch anything, but the subtitle stuff requires me to focus a bit better. But I should start catching up on sleep tonight, hopefully. Okay, so with all of that babbling out of the way, it looks like I watched Trigon Badlands Rumble as the first thing on my list of things that I watched. And it was actually a pretty interesting movie. It didn't have the impact I was kind of hoping it would while watching it. But the retrospect, I realized it actually did exactly what I wanted it to do while watching it. The real problem was just that since the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya is so fresh on my mind, that kind of altered my expectations of the also highly rated Trigun movie. And the reasons for that actually should have been pretty obvious going in. A big difference between the two series going up to these movies. In the case of the Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya, seasons 1 and 2 cover a lot of stuff, but they're by no means exhaustive or comprehensive. They leave a lot of open room for other interesting things to happen and for the universe to be expanded upon. That's why the disappearance of Haruhi Suzumiya really it's the series has a lot more flexibility for them to do something really awesome. And Disappearance really hit that just right. Whereas with Trigon, if you think about it, the original Trigon series covered absolutely everything that needed to be covered, and any attempts to really mess with that too much just end up they would backfire. For example, you can't tell a prequel. We already have the prequel stuff unless you go so far back that it's irrelevant. You can't do the stuff after a Trigon series because the entire idea of it ending on its high note... Was that a high note? It's more like ending on an appropriate note, really. And that was what... you can't really mess that up about the series. And so, do you mess with any of the stuff that happened during? It was very comprehensive during the series. Comprehensive, well defined. So then the only thing you can really do is a side story that's not really terribly relevant to the events in the Trigun universe, right? And that's what Trigun Badlands Rumble is. But how can that necessarily make it a good movie? Well, the answer is pretty simple. It's if it does a couple of the things just right to make you feel like these are legitimate good side episodes that really cover the characters really well. And that's what's really good about it. It's not just that, there's more to it than just that our main cast of characters played all of their parts really appropriately without depending too heavily on stuff that was revealed later on in the series. It's very much near the beginning of the series, we still just only know these characters sorts of things. And it plays on all the notions, especially around our main character, Vash. It plays around those notions of, everything about that was awesome about Trigon that revolved around him. Everything from his obviously, well, I guess I don't know how I want to put it, because if I put it in certain ways, it'll probably spoil it for people who haven't seen Trigon. But needless to say, when I thought back on the movie, I realized that watching Trigon Badlands Rumble gave me a lot of the same impressions about the series as watching the series itself did, without, of course, the big awesome things that really built upon the Trigon universe that the series already covered. So you can almost think of it sort of like, well, I don't know. I don't know if that comparison is quite apt. I can't really think of a good comparison, but overall, that setup of Trigon Badlands Rumble was actually quite neat and fascinating and relevant to me. And then of course there's the awesome art direction, the updated art, all that stuff. That was also really neat. A couple of other neat things about the setup that would go closer towards my description of the series, but I don't think I can say that one right without spoiling things either. So we'll put that aside and go on to the next thing, Squid Girl, which was very amusing. In fact, I enjoyed it so much that after I watched the first disc and I went into work, I was a bit disappointed knowing that I had to come home and find something else to watch other than Squid Girl. But guess what? I didn't realize I had a second disc. Now I only had 2 more episodes on that, but that was really awesome. Now let's see if I can try describing what I found so neat about it. First of all, the setup feels very similar to that of Sergeant Frog. Sergeant Frog kind of doesn't play its setup very seriously. Instead, does pretty crazy things that are just interesting everywhere and very off the wall. Whereas Squid Girl actually kind of plays it, kind of remembering more what it is. And what that basically comes down to is it creates this amusing situation where you have an anime about aliens that are trying to invade the Earth, but failing because of a single Earth family, and a Squid Girl who's trying to invade the Earth. A Squid Girl from the ocean who's trying to invade the Earth, being stopped by this one family, and the Squid Girl seems a lot more like an alien than the aliens do from Sergeant Frog. I think this is something that's talked about on TV tropes, where the idea of where in a lot of shows, when we set up aliens, we're really setting up other humans, so to speak. There's nothing actually alien about them. Their motivations, their reasoning, their thinking, their actions, their biology, all of it is still fairly human, so to speak. But with Squid Girl, it's like the opposite on all the fronts, other than the fact that she looks pretty human. But her thinking is just something different, and it's quite entertaining to watch. That, and I am also a big fan of puns. Not that she's necessarily saying puns all the time, but she's kind of doing that. There's some weird things where it's like this is the English dub I'm talking about. And that was one thing that was really good about the English dub. I haven't seen the Japanese one, but I'd heard people complaining about the idea of dubbing Squid Girl, in that Squid Girl uses a ton of puns in her language, or she does plays on words at least, which might be the same thing. And they were worried that might not carry over into the English dub too well, but watching the English dub and not having seen the Japanese dub, it actually sounded right from that brief description that poster had made. So, but there are the strange things about it. We're like, she'll say, "Now wait just a cracking minute," it's sort of like, instead of "wait just a fucking minute" or whatever. I think Battlestar Galactica did similar stuff by saying "wait just a fracking minute," and I don't know. It's there's some of that in it, but there's also some basic things like instead of invasion, it's an inkvasion, and I just it's just amusing and I don't know. It's entertaining in a different way from Sergeant Frog when I compare to the two. So I'm not quite sure which one I would say I enjoy more. Yeah, I'm not sure. Oh well. Anyways, the nice thing about it is that the next part looks like it's got a November 8th release date, so we only have to wait another month to get that. That's pretty cool. Let's see, I watched 10 more episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho, and it's okay. There's just, at this point, it's doing some really standard shonen stuff that I'm not sure I care as much about. There's some about of it that's neat, but I think a lot of this is that what made Yu Yu Hakusho neat in this respect is that it pioneered some of those concepts. I think, at least that's what I heard. I'm not sure if that's actually accurate, but like right now it seems very Flame of Recca-ish. Oh, where is it? Flame of Recca-ish. And I could see where if Yu Yu Hakusho came first, where Flame of Recca is imitating the same concept. Because at the same time, Yu Yu Hakusho, I would call that one slightly better. But I guess, I don't know. I'm waiting for it to get past this story arc, I guess, to see what's going to happen. The other thing is it's a kind of it's a shonen, so it doesn't necessarily move particularly fast. So a lot of that is limited by how often the people I'm watching it with are over and wanting to watch more. Anyways, the last thing I started watching, and this was what slowed down my anime watching because this was around the time when I started the apartment stuff. I started watching Amagami SS. In particular, I watched the contents of the first disc of Part 1, which is what is out now. And I think I've got a general idea of the show, and if it's doing what I think it's doing, it's actually pretty cool. The basic idea is it's based on well, I don't know if it's based on one. I assume it's based on a Gal game. I think I'm using the right terminology here. And the basic idea in the Gal games, right, is that you have a bunch of potential candidates for people you get together with at the end, and you have to choose which ones you're going to focus on or something like that. And you got other games like that. I think Clanad was one like that, and the Clanad series tells it from one perspective, but has a couple of side stories of if the main character went off in the other directions, I think. But what Amagami SS is doing differently than what I think a lot of other anime have done is they're kind of exploring all of them, maybe. And I'm not talking about like one timeline. They may be giving us different timelines, I think. I'm guessing it's this way based upon the way the first disc ended. As for the contents itself, well, the contents of the first disc, I thought they actually they missed a pretty good opportunity to make a character that that would have been really cool, and it kind of reminds me of Shuffle in a bit of a way, where a lot of anime, especially harem anime or anime based on the Gal game sort of stuff, they like to make a main character who is attractive to the ladies, but is kind of this wimpy, begging sort of person, I guess. And one thing that I really like about shows like Canon and Clanad is they kind of go the complete opposite, and they make actually rather charismatic main characters. And Shuffle I had thought was going to do that, and then started falling into some of the normal tropes. And this one created the character initially where he could have been like that, but then decided to make completely into the stereotype. And then they did some pretty weird things. But I guess I can't go into too much detail there because that is kind of the point of each individual story, I guess. So I'm kind of interested to see if other Amagami stories do not do the same thing, unless I'm completely mistaken and it's doing something else completely different with the series. But, oh well. Anyways, after that, I've just had these evenings where I've come home, been exhausted, and just keep putting off going to bed. So I'm going to go ahead and end my anime analysis here. That's all the stuff I watched after all. And yeah.